Tonight was almost an absolute disaster for MLS. But thankfully, that wasn't the case, and I, of course, will get to the only team that is able to move on into the semifinal, or the only MLS team that's able to move on into the semifinal. But before we get to that, let's talk about the bad stuff. And we'll start with the Red Bulls. Oh, Red Bulls. Oh, so Metro, wasn't it? That the fact that they were able to give all their fans hope after going up 2-0 inside 9 minutes, only to just lose it all in a span of 9 minutes. I mean, there is a reason why I say the Red Bulls is the Washington Capitals of MLS. And heck, I'm not even going to call them the Washington Capitals of MLS anymore, because at least the Caps won a Stanley Cup. The Red Bulls, of course, haven't won anything except for Supporter Shield. They're kind of like the Tottenham of MLS. Like, you would think that every time it looked like they give their fans some hope that maybe this is gonna turn out, and then they find ways to just destroy any hopes that the fans have and just heartbreak you every single time. And it was the case in this game too. So, like I said, the Red Bulls, they actually got off to a very quick start. Fernandez scored from Royer and Kaku. That's Fernandez's first goal because, it's the Red Bulls. Guys tends to always score first goal on their debut. Although I don't think Fernandez, this was his first game with the Red Bulls. But still, it's so common to see Red Bulls always get players score their first goals these days because that's what it is. And then Royer scores from BWP, and all of a sudden it's 2-0 Red Bulls. And I was tweeting out and saying, yeah, looks like the Red Bulls are doing in Atlanta, where in 9 minutes they completely turn things around. Now, unlike Atlanta, where in that Atlanta versus Herediano game where Atlanta scored 2 goals inside 9 minutes, that was when they were able to they were able to tie the aggregates and moving on away goal. This result would have still meant that the Red Bulls would have had to go to penalties in order to beat Santos. And, I thought after this fast start, maybe the Red Bulls are really going to get a third goal very soon. But Santos woke up. Like, Santos, for the first 10 minutes, I feel like they were kind of sleepwalking. But as soon as they knew that they were kind of in deep trouble, they woke up. And boy, did they woke up in a big way. For the rest of the game, it was just all Santos. And that first half, I was really surprised Santos did not get a goal. Luis Robles really stood on his head. The Red Bulls defense, at times got a lot of help from both their goalkeeper and also the post. And then in the second half, it was the same thing. Santos was just shooting everywhere, and I thought for sure that there is no way the Red Bulls are going to hold on to this. And sure enough, that's what happened in the 72nd minute. And once Santos scored that goal, the floodgates basically opened. In the 72nd minute, Abela scores from Quinones to make it 2-1 Santos, or 2-1 Red Bulls, but Santos, of course, retake the aggregate leads at 3-2. And then Lozano scored from Angelo to make it 2-2 in this game in the 76th minute. And then Valdez scores from Quinones in the 79th minute. And it's 3-2 Santos. Like, in 6 minutes, this game just pretty much turned on its head. But wait, we're not done yet. Because in the 81st minute, Lozano scored his second goal. And he basically did his best Charlie Adams impression by scoring a goal from 67 yards out. I mean, some will say that he kind of chipped that one from 67 yards out. Nah, he absolutely smashed that one. And Robles, first of all, he was caught off his lines. And second of all, that was just such a powerful shot that there was no way that Robles was going to get to that one. And there you go. It was 4-2, just like that. In a span of 9 minutes, there was 4 goals. And that is something that I have not seen since whenever I see the Quakes capitulate like that back in 2017, which, by the way, we still made the playoffs that season, just to remind everybody. But, yeah, I mean, this was a total capitulation by the Red Bulls, and this just adds in another chapter of the legacy of failure for the Red Bulls. I mean, if you're a Red Bulls fan, I know this sounds very familiar, but I want you to comment below. What does this rank in terms of level of disappointment that the Red Bulls have suffered throughout the year? Um, shots in this game, Santos had 21 shots compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had. The Red Bulls had 4 shots in the first 9 minutes. The rest of the game, they had 1. Shots on goal, 6 that Santos has compared to the Red Bulls 4. Shots off target, 12 that Santos had compared to 1. Santos had 3 shots that was blocked, none compared to the Red Bulls. And Santos dominated possession, 61% possession compared to just 39% possession that Santos, of course, or the Red Bulls had. So, yeah, Santos, of course, are moving on into the semifinal. And for the Red Bulls, yeah, they gotta put this quickly behind them because in 4 days' time, they're going to be playing against the Quakes. And as a Quakes fan, I'm not sure should I be happy about this result or should I be very concerning. Because on one hand, we're going to be playing against a Red Bulls team that are still trying to recover from this collapse that they had in CCL. But on the other hand, they are going to be very angry coming into that game. And when you play an angry Red Bulls team, get ready to get absolutely smacked. So, yeah, I, as a Quakes fan, I don't know. I'm definitely, in some way, I definitely am not looking forward to what happened on Saturday. Although, keep in mind, Almeida is managing our team right now. And the last time Almeida played against the Red Bulls, he was able to get a 0-0 draw with his Chivas team. So, maybe there's going to be more frustration for the Red Bulls. And, if you're a Red Bulls fan, that's the last thing you want to hear. After you get destroyed 4-2, oh wait, now we have to face the Quakes, and oh wait, we have to face that guy that basically knocked us out in CCL last year. Isn't that great? Is it? Oh man, but either way, moving on. So Santos, of course, moving on into the semifinal, and they are going to meet another Liga MX team, and for probably the 1 millionth time, we have an all Liga MX semi-final between Santos and Tigres. And Tigres, of course, take care of business against the Dynamo by a final score of 1-0. And, for the Dynamo, like I said in the last review, there is no shame of going out to Tigres, and there's just no shame at all the fact that they look competitive in this game. I mean, we knew coming into this game, Tigres was going to absolutely steamroll Houston, but Houston in these 2 games really show character. And in this game, I think compared to the last one where they were trying to park the bus a little bit, they actually decided to go forward a little bit, and they had chances in this game. I think right about 34 minutes in, Tigres actually gave the ball away to Tommy McNamara, and McNamara had a great chance to give Houston the lead there, and if he would have scored that, it would have been 1-0 Houston, and all of the sudden, a lot of those 40,000 Tigres fans in El Volcan is probably very nervous about what in the world is happening, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and eventually, of course, Tigres does find a goal, and in this game, like I said in the last review, this game looks kind of similar, except the fact that Houston did had a couple more decent chances. Tigres was just, they were getting very frustrated. The fact that they couldn't break down that Houston team, and you can even visibly see their frustration after around the hour mark, where they were just, there were players from Tigres that were head in heads and just really feel disgusted the fact that they haven't really just put this tie away. But eventually they did. In the 68th minute, Salcedo scores to basically put this tie away, and after that, yeah, there was no coming back for Houston. But again, Houston, no shame of losing to one of the biggest team and probably a team that might win CCL this year. Shots in this game, Tigres had 16 shots compared to 10 that Houston had. 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that Houston has. 5 shots on off target compared to 6 that Houston had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Houston had. And Tigres had 64% possession compared to 36 that the Dynamo has. And I think, the only disappointment from this game, from these two-legged affair between them and Tigres is the fact that they didn't score a goal. I mean, it would have been nice if they would have scored a goal against one of the biggest team in Liga MX, but then again, that's of course is what happened when you face a mighty team like Tigres. That is, and yeah, something tells me that this Santos versus Tigres game, even though I don't know if I'm gonna really pay a lot close attention to it, something tells me that's gonna be a very good tie. I mean, both of those teams are very good at Liga MX right now, and who knows what's gonna happen heading into whoever, of course, move on to the final. Next up, Atlanta. So the good news is they won. They beat Monterrey 1-0. The bad news is they lost on aggregates. And I didn't actually put the aggregate score like I did with the Tigres and Houston and Santos and Red Bulls game. But Atlanta did lose on aggregate by a final score of 3-1. And coming into this game, they need 3 goals to potentially send this to penalties or maybe get 4 goals, and it was always going to be a tough task. And knowing what has happened this week with Atlanta and how I wouldn't say it's kind of a crisis, but in some sense it's getting close to it, with the fact that they drew against FC Cincinnati and their manager, of course, lashing out to the fans, which he later apologized. Yeah, it was not looking good for Atlanta coming into this game against Rayados. And, they did try to put more pressure and show more passion than they did in these previous games, but they just could not put the ball into the back of the net. And that Rayados defense, Rayados actually had one of the best defense in Liga MX, as I heard over the broadcast, and they show why that they had one of the best defense in the league. Like, their defense was very organized, and it was pretty clear that Rayados was just going to... They didn't really kind of attack a lot in this game, but I'm guessing it's basically kind of like the tactics of their game where, we're up 3-0, and we're going to be going on the road in a hostile environment. Why don't we just try to defend, knowing that we have done very well in terms of defending? And, Atlanta, they definitely look more promising on the attack, but unfortunately they were, 1, not clinical, and 2, the final ball at times are still lacking for this team. And despite the fact that they definitely look more promising going forward, it still isn't kind of like the Atlanta team that reminds me of last season. The only goal in this game was Joseph Martinez scores from Nagby in the second half in the 77th minute. After the 60th minute, I kind of had a feeling that this one was pretty much over, and that, I don't think Atlanta is going to come back from this. Martinez scoring that goal kind of gave me a little bit hope, and then he, of course, looked like he scored a second goal to really make it interesting, but unfortunately he was called with a foul after he knocked down one of the Rayados defender. And that of course is your final score in this game, 1-0 in favor of Atlanta, but Rayados, of course, moving on with a 3-1 score in the aggregate. Shots in this game, Atlanta had 13 shots compared to 8 that Rayados had. 4 shots apiece in terms of shots on goal by both teams. 5 shots off target compared to Monterrey 4. 4 shots that was blocked compared to Monterrey 0. Atlanta had 63% possession compared to 37% possession that Monterrey has. So for Atlanta, it's disappointing the fact that they're out of CCL, and for a team that coming into this certainly is one of the favorites coming in. I think from what we saw in the last couple of weeks, it showed that Atlanta just kind of are going through a little bit of a tough patch, and usually when you go through a tough patch, especially in CCL, you are probably not going to be very successful. In tournament play, one of the biggest thing that you do not want to do when you're heading into a tournament like CONCACAF Champions League is you do not want to hit a rough patch. You do not want to have things that is kind of doom and gloom that Atlanta is dealing with right now, and that is exactly what happened. And I think that is probably the reason why this team wasn't able to get anywhere near the CCL final. But finally, a team that actually did make it to the semifinal, and remember how in the beginning of the video I said this was almost a disaster where 4 MLS teams made it to the quarterfinal and none actually made it to the semifinal. that was almost a reality in this game. Boy, oh boy, this game, if you are a Sporting KC fan, yeah, you can now pretty much just grab the oxygen tank and just breathe in a sigh of relief. And when you look at the scoreline, you're thinking, what are you talking about? That they were very stressful in this game. It was a 3-0 win. They were able to overcome a 2-1 aggregate score, and it looked like, on paper, they roll over Independiente. No, that is exactly what happened. And they absolutely dominated this game. They put on a shooting gallery against Independiente, but somehow, in some way, the goalkeeper for Independiente, which I believe his name was Garrett, and I have a feeling most MLS team that has goalkeeper issue, which include the Quakes, for example, and also Liga MX team that might have goalkeeper issue with those teams that have that problem, they're probably getting on the phone and calling Independiente and saying, can we get that Garrett guy? Because he was just amazing. And it wasn't just this game that he was amazing. If you look at some of the previous games that he had played against MLS team, and in that Toronto game, he was magnificent. And that this goalkeeper definitely could be a very decent goalkeeper. And in this game, he was just he was kind of like trying to channel his inner De Gea in this game. Every shot that came into his way for 73 minutes was saved. Now, to be fair, Sporting KC, their finishing was absolutely abysmal in this game. Most of those shots were really just came out straight to the goalkeeper. But I think the one that I want to highlight was right near the end of the first half, where I think it was it Zusi that hit that free kick, or Russell, but he hit that free kick, and the goalkeeper for Independiente just made an absolute Superman save to basically stop that one from going to the back of the net. And I think at that point you realize that something is not good. This is not going to be Sporting KC night. And first half there was no score. Second half, Sporting KC just it feels like the ball for the whole second half never actually crossed the midway point. Like the ball was always on the Independiente half, and that every time when Sporting KC has a chance, Independiente basically clear, and then they would just go the other way. Independiente was basically just parking the bus in this game, and in the second half, their defense was it was god awful defense. But the reason why this game was still 0-0 was because that Garrett guy was playing out of his mind. Like every shots that he was facing was just, he saved it. And I even heard the announcer said he had 14 saves in this game, which is even more than what Luis Robles had last year against Tijuana in the quarterfinal. It was just an incredible display. And if you're a Sporting KC fan, yeah, you wonder, is this gonna be that kind of night where nothing is gonna go right and you just cannot buy a goal? Kind of like something similar to what the Red Bulls suffered in the last game in the first leg, where they just had so many opportunity against Santos, but they just cannot put the ball into the back of the net. But thankfully, eventually, they were able to find the back of the net, and after 73 minutes of just pure Independiente resistance, Neymar finally scores from Baref and Russell in the 74th minute. And then after that point, not only there was so much relief in the Sporting KC face, I knew that this is probably going to get out of hand, and that the floodgate is going to open. And indeed it did. In the 81st minute, Espinoza scores from Russo and Gerso. And then in the 86th, Nemeth scored his second goal from Gerso. Final score in this game, 3-0 in favor of Sporting KC, and they won 4-2 on aggregates. Shots in this game, 27 shots compared to 5 that Independiente has. 13 shots on goal compared to just 3 that Independiente has. 11 shots off target compared to 1 that Independiente has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Independiente had. Possession-wise, 73% possession compared to 27% possession. I mean, the stats pretty much just proves Sporting KC was just dominating this game, and this was just, it was just men against boys in some way of how the thing gone through. And it's amazing the fact that it took 74 minutes before finally Sporting KC can get a goal and just feel much more relief from them. And certainly that also, as an MLS fan, that also felt very relieved that, yeah, thank goodness we're not going to have just an incredible free space disappointment after what we saw in the quarterfinal, where all four MLS teams went to the quarterfinal, all four of them failed. But now, of course, for Sporting KC, they do have a tougher task because they're going to be playing against Rayados, and I'm hoping they fix their finishing after this game. Like, seriously, if you're missing those chances against Rayados, no way you are going to move on into the next round. But yeah, there you go. That is pretty much it for my CCL quarterfinal second leg review. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I, of course, will see you guys next time.